Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Will Anthony Joshua revert to type in the rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr. in Saudi Arabia on December 7th? What I mean by that is the way that he would usually fight, because it is expected by fans and pundits that the former champion will likely implement a more safety-first approach in the rematch, use his height, use his reach to full advantage. He does have an 8-inch reach advantage over Andy Ruiz Jr. and about 4 or 5 inches in height. But could we see him slip into some old habits and patterns? And if you're Andy Ruiz Jr., you're probably hoping so, given he's already beaten that version of Joshua that likes to occupy the mid-range and sometimes get involved in a tear-up. For the rematch, Joshua is expected to box more from range, keep it long, utilize movement more, and at the same time work the jab, throw the right hand when it's there to be thrown. All of which is expected to make Ruiz Jr.'s job harder to get inside and let his hands go with his, punches and bunches. Those fast hands, let them go to work. And if he struggles to close the distance and it's harder to land scoring punches, at some point he's probably going to have to take risks in the fight. Well, that's the theory anyway. Can Joshua stick to a safety-first type of strategy for a whole fight if that's what in fact it takes to win the fight? Certainly an open question, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him slip into the mid-range at some point, just purely out of habit. There's one noticeable example of Joshua altering his usual game plan at world level and playing it safe, and that of course is the Joseph Parker fight from 2018, where with the prospect of an undisputed fight possibly in his future at that point, Joshua boxed conservatively to a decision. Not everyone was happy with how cautious he fought, and even Joshua months later said he wanted to abandon that way of fighting. He wanted to get back to knocking people out. And I'll come to the sort of showman element of Joshua in a bit, but I wanted to finish off on this whole Parker example because it's not quite like for like between Parker and Andy Ruiz Jr. A key difference being Andy Ruiz Jr. is a pressure fighter. Parker is not. And Joshua, he was able to largely dictate range and pace in that 2018 fight with Parker. Not only that, in a recent interview with the BBC, Joshua said he didn't actually believe that Parker came to hurt him, whereas Andy Ruiz Jr. will be pressing forward with bad intent on his mind. He knows he has the power to hurt Joshua and to take Joshua's best punches, so that's going to give him confidence to press the action and even force it if he has to, if Joshua has success by frustrating him from the outside. Can Joshua deal with sustained pressure from Ruiz? It's a big question. Over the years, we've seen many a fighter try to counter a pressure fighter by having a movement-oriented game plan, trying to play the percentages, with the jab, use the right hand judiciously. And that's effectively how Joseph Parker fought Andy Ruiz and beat him in a close fight back in 2016. So there is somewhat of a template to face Andy Ruiz Jr. Difference is, though, Parker, he is known for his movement. Joshua, not so much. Can Joshua maintain a good level of movement and discipline over a 12-round fight when someone like Ruiz Jr. is bearing down on him? We're about to find out, that's for sure. But I could see instances where Joshua wants to take a break because moving, when you're not necessarily a mover, that's going to catch up with you. And we know that he's been in camp, really pounding the pavement, trying to get his cardio up and such. But, if he wants to take a break in there, he could well find Ruiz right in front of him, letting his punches go and looking to counter Joshua. And that brings me to my next point, because while Ruiz is a good pressure fighter, he's also a very good counterpuncher, and he will work off what you give him. That now infamous third round knockdown, that happened when Joshua was trading with Ruiz. Joshua swung with a right hook, and Ruiz evaded it and came back with that left hook that shattered Joshua's equilibrium. He never really recovered. It's the so-called punch from the gods, as Joshua has called it before. A safety-first strategy might actually see Joshua throwing far fewer hooks to limit the opportunity for counters from Ruiz. There is the old saying, don't hook with the hooker. And I think for Joshua, he'd be wise to heed that, especially given how effective a punch it is for Ruiz. With those fast hands, his speed, timing, accuracy, and the power of his hooks, it means it'll probably end up reaching the target before Joshua's, and it will have a devastating effect again if he can land hooks in the fight. And while a safety-first style of strategy, it might be boring, boxing at range, jabbing, using the 1-2, grabbing when necessary, it's going to help blunt some of Ruiz's attack. But I guess the rub is with all that, and how we may think it could play out, is Joshua's long-stated desire to entertain crowds, fans, the world over, be a showman. He's admitted he loves a good tear-up. He's made no secret of that. And that effectively is what got him into trouble in the first fight. It was a big reason. He wanted to finish Ruiz off in style. He came charging in, and when in reality, the challenger wasn't as hurt as Joshua thought he was. And ultimately, Joshua paid the price for that. Some of that, I mean, it's been well spoken about before, was Joshua's desire to get a spectacular knockout, impress the crowds, set up some sort of undisputed fight at some point with Deontay Wilder. There may be times when Joshua gets a rush of blood to the head in this rematch, or he might be forced to trade at times if he's backed up to the ropes or into a corner. He's going to have to respond. But this is where some of his movement can come in. He needs to stay disciplined to his game plan. But I guess, we're only speculating on parts of the game plan. There may not actually just be a full sort of, rear guard action here. He may actually look to trade with Ruiz in spots, and probably most likely he'd have to do that anyway. But there is a good chance Joshua can win if he boxes smart, given his height and reach advantages. But like I say, can he help himself from occupying the mid-range? That's generally where he likes to fight. Can he avoid trading hooks with Ruiz, because that could catch up with him and end badly? Can he try not to get into a war with Ruiz, because Ruiz has shown he's got decent whiskers and he can hurt Joshua? And if he is moving, can he keep it going? And maybe more importantly, can he keep his head moving throughout the fight, not provide a stationary target for Ruiz to zero in on and hit? And we know he's had a full camp of adjustments, and he said himself he went to work pretty much after the first fight, ahead of training camp. He's put a lot of time and effort into the rematch. Can he stay disciplined in this fight? Because that could ultimately be the winning of it for him, or not. It's not going to be easy, that's for sure. But what do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.